everyone. Welcome to Illogically Illogical. I am Kaylee Chartier,
And I'm Kirkolic.
and we are going to go over some stories. In New York, there's a street that is being taken over by illegal migrants selling stolen goods and open prostitution. The second one is a Chinese migrant who is worried about see if her gun rights be taken away and see what the person she asks would what he would say about that. And the response is rather surprising, but really not surprising. And the last one is a California bill about child sex trafficking for a person buying a child for sexual favors to become a felony, then a misdemeanor, and organizations trying to prevent it. Well, the first story is in New York City. It's a stretch in Jackson Heights where it's a street named Roosevelt with migrant vendors hawking goods they ripped off from shopkeepers just steps away, while prostitutes proposition passerby at all hours, and frustrated merchants and residents say they are helpless to do anything about it. So if you live in New York, it's this big problem because it's being published and it looks like it's a big problem because and one of the people who were interviewed by New York Post, it says it's relentless. Milton Reeves, who manages Mil Farcia Pharmacy on the Avenue. You should see on Saturdays, it's so heavy you can't even step into the sidewalk. There are lots of doctor's offices right around here, and my customers don't even want to get dropped off. So, as you see, like, this is a very big problem for, I think, not just New York City, just like the businesses who have a business on the street. So basically, like if I saw like all these people selling ripped off goods in front of my doctor office, I wouldn't go there either.
Yeah.
And it's hurting patients who may want to go to a doctor for something that's urgent. And then and businesses are even like a pharmacy. It's just people are both suffering. So like if you see there's people they're selling tools and like shoes. I think like some of them look like high-end shoes you would buy from Nike or like on Under Armour. So, and this is one officer source blamed soft on crime laws that severely limit what cops can do and cut low-level nonviolent offenders loose once they get to court.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that it sounds like a new brand of like organized crime because like these illegal immigrants are setting up illegal fence type storefronts on the street and then intimidating store owners into providing their merchandise to them.
Yeah, they can't do anything, and it basically is one. They're committing like three crimes. One, I think, so you think you need like a permit or like a license to sell items.
Yep.
They're stealing goods from the businesses, and they're doing prostitution, which is very illegal in all 50, like I think all 50 states. So like they're committing three crimes right there. And also like, it's hurting revenue, it's hurting people who need maybe like a medication or need to get visited by a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like cops can't do anything because it said like later, like once police leave with maybe a few people they arrested, they do it again. And I think when New York Post like was driving down the street, they ran away, thought it was the police, and they did it right back again when they left.
Yeah.
So like they know they really can't be arrested or like they can be released the day after they're booked. So they're taking advantage of the soft on crime in New York.
Yeah. Well, what I'm curious about is where are all of these people staying? Because I doubt they're doing this 24 hours a day. Like obviously they have to go somewhere to rest or seek shelter, especially if they have prostitutes. But there's probably some kind of brothel that they return to unless they're just doing it in the street, which I feel like would be mentioned.
Yeah, I don't think it was mentioned, but I'm pretty sure like there's probably a brothel, and I know some like they say like maybe it's in a police department or a hotel because I know there's a story a while back ago where they did stay in a really nice hotel.
Yeah.
And they trashed it like minutes after the housekeepers clean it.
Yeah. Well, that was back during lockdowns when they gave the homeless like 5-star hotel treatment.
Yeah, well, this was like 2 years ago, right after
Yeah.
COVID opened.
Hmm.
So no, but
I'm just
is it?
curious on where they could stay because I know it's considered a sanctuary city, but does that give shelter like provided by the city?
I would think so. I mean, I know they did. They have a school that like a few months ago they kicked out all the students for that school for illegal immigrants to stay. So, and then there's like hotels. I think is like police departments, hotels, and schools. And I know in Chicago or somewhere the police department is filled with migrants
Hmm.
who are staying there.
Yeah, that just like if I were to walk up and see like a busy street, like I don't even like walking in like regular crowded streets. And if I saw a bunch of panhandlers, hawkers, and prostitutes, just, I don't even know what New York is up to right now. Like there's just no reason,
Oh,
incentive to go there.
it's just crazy. I mean, I would leave. I'll turn around and leave because like I don't know like what their motive is. Probably sell me illegal good or like what would they do if I said no?
Yeah.
So that's a thing to think about.
Yeah, and if they're willing to intimidate retail shop owners, who knows what they would do to their own customers.
Yeah, I mean, I think in California they have a law where like I think it's $1,000 you can steal. It's like a misdemeanor, and
Mm. So
like
you just have
people
to steal
just
more than $1,000 and you're good.
yeah, or like less than like people have walked off with jeans on racks and they can't do anything. So if like the owners of their business can't do anything, they'll take advantage of that. Because if the owner gets more in trouble trying to protect their goods or try to get their goods back, then they look at immigrant, then that's
Mm.
gonna become a problem.
Like
Which is
even with like the police being low on crime and that it kind of leaves an issue, even if they do want to crack down on crime after they realize that they've been too lax on it. It comes to the point where since they were so low on crime for so long, more people are trying to be conducting illegal activities. So it gets to the point where since everybody's encouraged to commit crimes, when they decide to crack down on it, there's too many people to imprison or hold in jail. Because I remember was working in a mall at one point over the summer, and there was a clothing store, and somebody ran out with like an armful of clothes. The alarm went off. The security officer went out, tackled them, and then they just took the merchandise back to the store and let the guy go because there's nothing you can do with that many people that are just so confident enough to run into a store, grab what they can, and just hope they escape.
yeah. Like now, like if you try to stop a shoplifter from stealing, like the employee gets in trouble, then the person who's stealing. So, like
Hmm.
also like a lot, if, like this new law employing a lot of stores like Walmart. Like I think three Walmart shut down in Chicago because like they got looted so much. It was during when teenagers were like going on streets and harassing a lot of people. So
Yeah,
like, and then
and
I know,
Walmart
well,
is removing the self checkouts because it's just like ripe for shoplifting.
yeah,
And like that's even bad
I
for
mean,
like law abiding people because I went to a Walmart in a self checkout line and I was just helicoptered and harassed by the employees because they just assumed I was stealing. So like it just makes everything about it more stressful, even if you have no plans on shoplifting anything, you're still going to be treated and looked down upon if you even just try to do something that they're not absolutely expecting.
yeah, it's happening so a lot. Like a lot, like I think a lot of or like Walmart or even a small business will expect everyone stealing. So
Yeah, it's like you
it's
go to the
become a big
pharmacy,
problem.
yeah, and you go to pharmacies and they have like over the table like I bought some Advil today and it's in a plastic container that you have to take up to the cashier who can open it.
Yeah,
Like there's just no
I
trust
mean,
anymore
like
in stores.
No, like California, like underwear, like sunscreen, makeup. It's under behind a protective case where like maybe like a new movie or like a device would stay inside. So like
Hmm.
with so much crime going on, the lack of trust is increasing day by day.
A Chinese immigrant who survived communism. And under Mao, 40 million people were starving to death after he sold communism to them, and 20 million people died, murdered during his Cultural Revolution. So my question to you, David, is that can you guarantee me, a gun owner tonight, our government in the U.S., in D.C., will never become a tyrannical government? Can you guarantee that to me?
There's no way I can ever guarantee that any government will not be tyrannical.
Well, then the debate on gun control is over because I will never give up my guns.
That was, I think she was referencing to, there was a Chinese immigrant who was worried about her gun rights, which as an American citizen, and she was a Chinese immigrant, she was worried about how her guns would be taken away, like during the Cultural Revolution in Mao Zedong, where he took away all of the citizens of China's gun rights and killed millions of his citizens. And she was worried, and the person, I think he could not answer because I don't think he wanted to, but like she talked about like she's not getting off her guns because that's her right, and the government, which I mean will probably sooner right now try and take away the Second Amendment right in the Constitution.
Mhm.
So
What city was that in?
I think in DC. She's mentioned DC.
Okay, is that like a pretty left wing?
It's very liberal.
Yeah.
It's like their vote doesn't count, but like it's very liberal because they had a Black Lives Matter little banner in front of that White House. So it's
Right.
very liberal. So like DC, it's a very liberal town. So as she should be worried about her Second Amendment's being taken away, her guns, and so basically she wants to make sure everyone has the rights and basically defend her right to defend herself.
Yeah, no, it's always it's always like immigrants that come legally from very corrupt or tyrannical governments that are most pro freedom of speech and pro gun rights, that is just in fine with in America, that are so adamantly disliked by a lot of particularly like younger left wingers who are taught that socialism and communism and other forms of Marxist rhetorics are inherently good, and that people just haven't done it correctly yet. But these people come down and they actually have experience with it, and they're kind of mocked and shunned for offering their witness testimony of what happens when those types of laws are enacted.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been born in the U.S., so I haven't experienced like what China or Cuba has experienced. So like if you lived here, you do have to worry about like where your next like meal comes from, or a tyrannical government like taking your family away. They say something that the government doesn't like. A lot of these people like leftist Gen Z, they don't understand. They really never experience like communism or socialism, and if they say, oh, it hasn't been done the correct way, well, like these other ways that has happened in Cuba and China, I don't think you want to experience those,
Mm-hmm.
because like a lot of people have died, and a lot of people are dying right now because they say something that the government doesn't like, and they can go to concentration camp or like basic concentration camp, and they have no right to defend themselves. And I think Turning Point, they sent out some of their I think personalities to Cuba, and I think they asked like people who are living in Cuba and saying like, well, where I'm from, they want what you have, like what they want communism in America, and they kind of look at them like they're idiot, like they're crazy, because like they're living through it. I mean, most of the buildings in Cuba were destroyed, and I mean, a lot of human violations in China, and a lot of people are like they don't know, I think they're taught to hate America because of what America stands for.
Yeah, it's definitely like deep-rooted anti-Western culture is in these types of tyrannical dictatorships. Like they're just taught to instinctively hate America in particular.
Yeah. I mean, but like I think China's laughing at us right now because like our military is more focused on diversity and LGBTQ rights than defending our country. And that's a big problem. And I know, I like, I know New Mexico, they tried to take away the Second Amendment right in New Mexico a few months ago, and that did not go well. So like, if you, so it can't happen in your state. Like if you have a Democratic governor, it's gonna happen. They're gonna try to take away the Second Amendment right to say they're defending or protecting their citizens, but they just don't want the citizens to defend themselves from the government.
Yeah, that's definitely like a big case in Canada too, because recently even handguns are slowly being worked on to be restricted. So hunting rifles are it's there's a lot of crackdown on stopping hunters from having access to firearms, which many rural Canadians use as their way to provide for their families.
Like I think Kansas, like most is farmland, so they have hunting rifles to protect their stock and their like crops and animals from coyotes and mountain lions. So like that's a good way to so like guns not only defend like yourself but also maybe your livelihood, your business,
Yeah, even
and
like
also
beyond like crime ideas, it's just like helpful for a lot of country living people that they need it to provide.
I know the biggest argument because like there's a lot of school shootings in the US and they're saying like if you could take away guns, there'll be a lot with like school shootings. But I mean, Chicago has like the highest gun laws and they have the most shootings. So if we take away to protect schools, they're still gonna find a way. And usually they're gonna find a way to get guns. I mean, if you're that desperate to find something that you really can't have, you'll find it.
Yeah, like even like if you take a look at like places like the UK, Australia, it's just they're just slowly being replaced with stabbings and people just physically attacking people on the street rather than using guns. So people that do want to commit violence, they will just find a way, even if they're not able to illegally obtain a firearm, they will find a different weapon.
Yeah, and it's not a gun problem. Like it's probably mostly like a mental health problem because a lot of these people do have maybe undiagnosed mental health problems that people haven't like or the law enforcement hasn't caught up yet. So if you take away guns, you're not really fixing the problem.
Yeah, it's definitely a mental health problem because weapons are tools and it's based off the people that use them, but there's such a culture with no accountability or like showing obvious signs. So like if a criminal commits a crime, they're let out pretty quick and they're treated like they won't do it again, even though there was no punishment to give incentive to cease criminal behavior.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Like most of the like the school shooters, they were in contact with law enforcement, but they were let go, and a lot of them did have like red flags of mental health,
Mhm.
and nobody went up to them and like gave them treatment. So if you don't like, yeah, if you don't like treat something, it's gonna get worse time over time.
Yeah, and it's very confusing because a lot of left-wing people always talk about needing to be more emotionally open and mental health awareness, but then these clearly mentally ill people get flagged by whatever censors come up, but then there's just no action to help them in any way.
Yeah, I mean, like I know back then, like mental health wasn't really it was like you were made fun of if you like maybe had a mental health problem. But like and now we have a lot of resources, but still it's not being treated. It's just like kind of like being a band-aid on a gun wound.
Yeah, well, a lot of mental health treatment is about acceptance and not overcoming your actual problems.
Yeah, that's true. So recently in California, a bill is being introduced where it's SB 1414, where it imposes more harsher punishments for buyers of child sex trafficking in California. So I think right now it's a felony. Right now it's a misdemeanor, not a felony. It's going to become a felony if the bill passes. And two leftist organizations or more are opposing it or trying to make sure it doesn't pass because they're stating that there's already laws implemented and it's going to be harsher for some people than others, which is bizarre.
Opponents of this measure include several criminal justice reform groups, including the Californians for Safety and Justice, Ella Baker Center for Human Rights, and the California Public Defenders Association. That association, in its opposition, has said that current law already addresses the issue. It also said, in part, this bill punishes some defendants more harshly, felony punishment and sex offender registration, even when those persons do not have the intent to have sex with a minor. Similar proposals have been blocked at the state capitol since 2014, according to legislative documents. We'll see what happens with this version of the bill when it has its first hearing next week.
So I do think, I think common sense, it should be a felony because you are exploiting using a child for sexual favors, which is very wrong. And it's a child, so they're very innocent. And to me, I feel like you should get the harshest punishment because you're hurting a child that doesn't deserve it. Like, no child deserves to be molested, raped, or anything because you want to have sex with the child.
Yeah, you really nailed it. I have nothing to add to that. Like, it's just a deplorable thing, and the culture is really changing to be more. Well, they use the phrase sex positive, but it's just like little too much.
Yeah. Or like calling pedophiles maps, which to me, that's just, you're kind of blaming, to me, if you're more sympathetic to the pedophile than the child or to anyone who's been raped, I have no respect for you. Just gonna say that out there.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what drives a person to want to do those types of things to children. Maybe it's not their choice. Maybe it's just in them innately, but that is no excuse, and it's not any reason to give sympathy over to them. They need to be properly punished and not retroactively trying to be framed as a victim or a minority group, like calling somebody a minor attracted person instead of a pedophile.
I think for pedophiles, like, I did research why pedophiles have attacked children is because they were attacked or molested at a young age and they didn't get any treatment. That's still, I know a lot of those pedophiles, I think not all, but a lot of them have trauma in the past, but it's not an excuse to hurt a child because you're just increasing the cycle. You're just creating a cycle of abuse and pain.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be controversial to defend children, to protect children. You should protect children from this because you're just gonna create a lot of problems in the future and a lot of hurt for families.
Yeah, and what's the most bizarre is that they're trying to rope themselves in with LGBT groups, and to their credit, pretty much every LGBT person would denounce that and never accept quote unquote maps into their umbrella term of acronyms. It's just it's really sick how they're just trying to jump in on becoming a minority when they are in every conceivable way the predators and the criminals and people that really need to be punished.
Yeah, and the LGBTQ should be insulted because for having people protect these type of people, because a lot of people do compare and contrast or think that all people LGBTQ members are pedophiles, but not all of them are. So you should be able to defend this bill for giving a felony charge to someone who wants to harm children.
Yeah, the fact that it isn't that by just default is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, I think there's a video where I think someone went around and asked if a person did buy a child for sexual acts for sex trafficking, a lot of them said it should be a felony. But when that person told them it was a misdemeanor in California. All of them agreed that it should be a felony. I think no matter if you're you're a liberal or conservative, you should condemn pedophilia.